Hey patrons, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update video. Lately I've been working really hard on finishing the exclusive video I promised to you guys, and I've also been working on Expedition Sasquatch 3. I have a whole pile of emails and messages to get back to, and I promise I'm going to get back to them. Just when I'm out during the week and I'm filming stuff, it's hard to get back to people immediately, so the messages just sit there for a while. I'm not ignoring you guys, so don't worry. I'd recommend again sending messages through Facebook or through Patreon because I don't get notifications from YouTube for the messages. But yeah, the next couple days here I'm just wrapping up the editing. The music in this new video is awesome. I love it. I'm kind of going for a different style in this one. And the location where this is filmed is spectacular. Like I'm trying to think of how I'm going to top it in the next video. But yeah, so stay tuned. You'll probably get a notification of it. This is just a quick update video, like I said. But I also wanted to show you guys some of the gear I use when I'm out filming. I get a lot of questions about my filmmaking and what I use and if I was in film school and all that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be cool if I kind of showed you guys my camera bag. Seems to be a popular thing people do these days on the internet, on YouTube, is they show people what kind of gear they take with them. So here we go. So I have here my main camera bag. This is what I usually take with me wherever I go. Unless I'm hiking a long distance for like an overnighter, I'll take a different pack, a bigger pack. But usually this is where I keep all my camera gear, most of it. A lot of the time I don't put my actual camera or my tripod in my camera bag because I always have it out anyways, and I want it to be ready if I see something, if I have to shoot immediately. I'm not gonna be keeping my camera in my bag when I'm hiking around, or even if I'm in my car. I'm not gonna have my camera in the bag. It's gonna be on the seat beside me. The same goes with the microphone and my audio equipment. I always have that out usually. And my camera's usually always on my tripod. It doesn't really leave unless I'm in my vehicle. My camera will just be sitting on the seat beside me. But when I'm out walking around and hiking, I usually have my tripod in my hand with my camera on it, and then the microphone's on top. But yeah, this is my camera backpack. It's made by Lowepro. They make really good camera bags. This one here actually has a pull-out rain cover that goes over the bag, which is really handy. Keeps all my gear protected from the elements. I actually didn't know that it had that for the longest time. Like months after I bought the bag and was already hiking around with it. I had no idea that was tucked away in the bottom, so it's pretty cool. Before I open this bag and show you what's inside, I guess I'll talk a bit about my camera. I've mentioned it before on my channel. My main camera is the Panasonic FZ300, and it's what they call a bridge camera. So it's like a combination of a point and shoot and a DSLR. It has a small sensor. I think this one has a 1/2 inch sensor. So it's pretty tiny, but it allows the camera to have that long zoom range. It's a 25 to 600 millimeter lens built into the camera with a 2.8 aperture, so it lets a lot of light in. And the camera is also fully weather sealed, so it can get rained on and it can be out in dusty and dirty environments, and I don't have to worry too much. On the camera I have a Comica shotgun microphone mounted on it. It's like a miniature version comparable to the Rode Video Micro. I really like the microphone. I think I paid $60 for it on Amazon, $60 Canadian. That microphone's also plugged into a Zoom H1 recorder, and then that recorder is outputting into the camera. So I have my shotgun microphone running into the Zoom H1, and then the Zoom H1 is outputting into the camera. And what I'm doing is basically using the Zoom H1 as a preamp to clean up my audio. Gives a lot cleaner signal, and I know it just sounds a lot better than having the shotgun mic plugged directly into the camera. The tripod I use is very small. It's made by a company called Nextech. I don't know if you guys have that in the States, but we have it here in Canada. And they make like lower budget camera gear, and it folds up really, really small, and it's really, really light, and that's why I like it. I do have a bigger tripod with a $200 Manfrotto head on it, and I usually keep that in my vehicle. Lately, I haven't been using it at all, really, because it's so big and it's just a pain to carry up the mountain. And wherever I'm hiking around, I really don't want to be carrying that, because usually most of the time I have a shotgun with me as well. And it just makes it difficult carrying that big tripod and also having the shotgun in my other hand as well. So I like to just have the small mini tripod. I can't get very high at all with it. It'll only come up to about here. So a lot of my tripod shots are low angle, but I'm getting by with it. With the camera setup I have right now, I filmed both the Expedition Sasquatch videos completely with this setup, with the FZ300 on this mini tripod with my $60 microphone. With this tripod, it actually came with a photo ball head, not a video head. So I removed the ball head and I put a Benro S2 video head on it. So it allows me to pan and tilt really smoothly. I do find that I usually have to hold the tripod down with one hand because it's so small and light to totally stabilize it so I can get really smooth shots, but I haven't had too many issues. I know a lot of people ask, if I went to film school, if I went to school or had formal training in video production, and I haven't. It's all been self-taught. Me and Doug have been making short films since, I don't know, grade 10, grade 11. I actually started off in photography mainly. I was interested in photography, especially when I was in college, taking adventure tourism. I wanted to get really beautiful photos, and I didn't really care about video that much. But once Canon started making the DSLRs that shot the 1080p HD video, I started to get into it more and more. So, I don't know, it just comes from watching a lot of movies, a lot of documentaries, and pretty much everything you need to learn about video production you can learn on the internet for free, which is crazy. Film school does have its benefits. Like, probably the biggest benefit of film school is the connections you make. But yeah, it's crazy what you can do with technology these days. With a small, low-budget kit, you can get some pretty good stuff. So I hope to make that somewhat evident in my videos, like the Expedition Sasquatch videos. I shoot that completely with this kit, and it turns out all right, especially for just like internet videos like YouTube and stuff that's going on Amazon. But anyways, getting off topic here a bit. The camera bag. What do I have inside of it? Okay, first thing, I have this little pouch here. Got it from BH Photo Video. And I keep my memory cards inside here. I also have this little device here made by Joby, and it's just like a clamp thing, so you can put your cell phone in there if you want to film with your phone, and it's got a 1/4 inch thread on there so you can mount it onto a tripod. Worst case scenario, because I right now don't have an actual backup camera, I have the one Panasonic FZ300. Worst case scenario, if anything happened to that, I can put my phone in here, which also shoots 4K, and film with that. I wouldn't recommend it, and I don't really want to do that, but if I have to, I will. I have this Ziploc bag, and inside here is just a bunch of GoPro accessories, battery charger, mounts, and a bunch of spare batteries. I think I have 6 spare batteries for it. I should probably get a better case, but whatever. Right here, I have the remote controller for my DJI Spark, my drone. And yeah, put your cell phone in here and use it as your screen. In this pouch, I have a second Zoom H1 recorder. I'll use this one if I need to attach a lavalier mic to myself. I'll just plug it in right here, put this in my pocket, and then clip the lav mic onto my shirt. In this pouch, I have a Comica lavalier microphone. And this lavalier microphone has 2 mics on it. It has one cable and it splits into 2, so you can put one microphone on one subject and the other one on another subject. It's good if you're like interviewing people. it all just records into the one device onto one track, and it sounds really good. Me and Doug actually use this to record our podcast episodes. Very good price too. I think it was like $30 or $40, which is a pretty good deal. And then here, this is actually the case for my Comica shotgun mic that's on my camera right now. It came in this nice pouch. But right now I'm using it to hold my spare batteries for my Panasonic. I have 3 spare batteries in here. I have a foam windshield for the Zoom H1. Just some extra AAA batteries. You can never have too many AAA batteries. A lot of my recorders and my headlamp uses AAA batteries, so I like to have lots of those. In here, my GoPro Hero 3. I'm outdated on the GoPro. Hero 3 Plus Silver. Never had any issues with this camera. It works really well. Actually, that's a lie. The only issue I ever had was that I needed to update the firmware. And it got to a point where I would put the memory card in the camera and it would give me an error, like an SD card error. But once I updated the firmware, it worked perfectly. So, still using that. I've had it for a while. In this pouch, I have a battery bank. These are very handy. You can charge pretty much everything off of them. I can charge my GoPro batteries, charge my phone. I can even charge my DJI Spark drone off of this, which is really cool. I actually have another portable charger, but it's a bigger one that you can actually use to boost your vehicle if you had to. I think you can jumpstart your vehicle like 18 times is what it was rated for, but it also has USB ports in it, so you can charge your phone or whatever, all your camera equipment. Yeah, recommend having 1 or 2 of these, especially when I'm out like in the field for multiple days and the camera batteries are running low. It's a good thing to have. So that's it for the main compartment. Little pouch on the top here. I have a pair of prescription sunglasses. I do wear contact lenses. So when I'm out in the bush, I usually carry my glasses and prescription sunglasses as well. It makes life easier sometimes, especially if you're out for many, many days and you don't want to put your fingers in your eye. Like, you could get some serious infections going on. So sometimes I switch to glasses. Also have a handle that mounts to the top of my camera. It's got a bunch of holes to mount any kind of 1/4-inch accessory. They also have 3/8 threaded holes there and a cold shoe mount. So it's good if you want to hold the camera at a low angle. You can still mount your microphones on top there as well. And what else? Pouch on the side here. I have a little pack of neutral density filters. And I find these very handy, especially in the winter when the snow is reflecting all the sunlight. Things are really, really bright and all the highlights get blown out in the video. So I usually have to put a neutral density filter on to kind of darken things, because the camera, even with the aperture cranked all the way, it still lets too much light in. So these are a good thing to have. This back compartment, there's like a really long zipper here. You can actually fit a small laptop in there, or I like to keep release forms in there in case I run into somebody and I want to interview them. They can sign a release form. Good thing to have on you if you're a filmmaker. Top pouch. When I'm out hiking around, I usually only carry 1 light. I have a second one, but to reduce weight, I only like to carry 1, and I have these filters that I can put in. It kind of changes the temperature of the light. I can't really tell how bright it is in here, but they do work really well. And it mounts to the top of my camera with this cold shoe mount. And then in here, I have my DJI Spark. And this little drone is sweet. I have 3 batteries total for it. And the cool thing, like I said before, with this drone is it's got a USB charging port on it. So if all these batteries are dead, I can plug it into my battery bank and charge it while I'm hiking, which is really handy. It's one of the only drones that can do that. Pretty much the only reason why I bought this drone over any of the other ones. This one only shoots 1080p video. I wish it shot 4K, but I would rather have the ability to charge it while I'm hiking than to have the 4K. And it's got really cool features. Like this drone, you can set it to follow you around while you're walking, and it'll film you. So it's a good way if you're a one-man crew to get shots of yourself and make it look like there's other people filming you, or, you know, it really increases production value having something like this in your kit. Yeah, and this pouch here, I carry just kind of personal items, like my headlamp. I have a set of headphones in here, and a box of reactant. When you're outdoors in the summer especially, or in the spring, this is a good thing to have. I need it because I get really itchy eyes, and it's very unpleasant, especially with contact lenses in. I don't want to be like rubbing my eyes, so I always keep reactant on me. So yeah, that's my kit. If you have any questions about it, or you want to know where I got some of this stuff, just write down in the comments below. Stay tuned the next couple days for the big Patreon exclusive video. I'm just trying to wrap up editing right now. I got a lot of sweet music in the video. I didn't cheap out on the music. The production value and the way it's filmed is better than the Expedition Sasquatch videos, in my opinion. So I don't know if I'm really gonna have to amp things up in the next Expedition Sasquatch video. So stay tuned for that new video in the next couple days, probably on Tuesday. And I'm gonna leave this video with an extended clip of my interview with Ken Walker.
The first time I ever smelt one was the first time I was ever out in that research area, and I got what the researchers call zapped. That means they do that thing, and I believe it's electromagnetic energy. They say that you'll get almost like something will almost incapacitate you with fear. And I got hit, and I can describe it. It's like, you know when you have a nightmare and you wake up and you're so scared, and then after a few minutes when you finally calm down, you think that was the stupidest thing in the world. Why was I so scared, you know? That's how it is, except you're awake. It's like having a nightmare when you're awake. It's the only way I can describe it. It's not a pleasant experience. That's why I wear the hex suits now. But also on that same trip, I went down all the way down to the river. Now there was some hunters that were run out of there, and there were stone piles up on the Cardinal River. And I've since come to realize that when those stone piles are up on the banks of the river, that means the Sasquatches are there. Because when they're not there, those stone piles are down. And then when they're there, they're up. The stone piles were up, and I tried to get up a hill, and I was into another valley where I was told that there's quite a few tracks. But it's hard to get in there, and I almost flipped my quad. And I was far enough back they probably wouldn't have found my bones. I mean, it was a scary situation. So I was able to get the quad turned around. I came back out, got down to the river where the crossroads was, and went further up to look for tracks along the river. But on my way back, on that crossroads, I drove into a stink that was like BO, rotten dead grass that had been in the sun in a bag, you know, for a week, and just a really offensive smell. And what I mean by offensive is, you know, you walk into a room and somebody's thrown up on the floor, and the smell hits you, and you can't get out of the room fast enough, right? It has that effect. It was that offensive of a smell. And I sat there, I thought, what in the world is so putrid? And then the breeze came, and the smell was gone. And I realized that whatever was smelling was moving. It was standing right there. I pulled up, and and then the hair started to go up on the back of my neck. And I realized that whatever it was I smelled is watching me. It's actually why I brought that other guy in there to, you know, when I went in there after that, the guy that ended up running his mouth to Todd and everybody else who had listened to him. Because I got real nervous about going in there. Now that smell was bad. Now where the nest was, like along that road, there's There's one place where I'll smell like a wet dog skunky smell, and I'm pretty sure that it's Sasquatch. And I've smelt that one there on a number of occasions, including with the trapper, who said that that's something different, you know. They tend to be, they smell very strong, you know. But gorillas are known to have a real strong odor, especially if they get upset, you know. And I guess if you ever met a person who was, you know, 40 years old and never had a bath in their life, they'd probably smell too. So I think that has more to do with it than anything. But they do have a, and also, you also have to look at the possibility that they put things on their bodies that stink. You know, I'll bet you our aftershave smells like hell to them, right? It smells good to us. Or perfume. Like, well, perfume doesn't smell good to me, it makes me sneeze, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, what we might find enjoyable, they might think is just awful. So, you know, but they definitely have a smell. And if you're watching for a Sasquatch to be stealthy, like if you're camping in a place where you want them to see you or want them to come in, they'll come in downwind, always. So that's where you have to, you know. But my trapper friend told me that they would sometimes circle upwind just to see how he'd react, and he says it scares him every time, you know. So if you smell one, they're usually messing with you. You know, you didn't just luck into it; they're doing that to you, you know. Because if they're either going to mess with you or they're going to leave the area, you know. But they're not going to let their presence be known.
What would you like to see happen, I guess, with the whole Bigfoot thing? Like, you looking to have a body turned in, or what's the end game, I guess?
It's only going to take a body, or a skull. A skull would work. I've talked to biologists about this, and they said you can, you know, but you can't, you have to have one or the other, a whole body or a skull. You're not going to do it any other way. You can DNA something all you want. A lot of these people will tell you the DNA came back human. Well, of course it did. If a chimpanzee is only like 2 turns from a human, imagine how close these guys are. They're a hominid. If you do just a basic test, it'll come out as human, always. It has to. You know, it's going to take a body, but it'd be a shame for somebody to kill one. You know, but that being said, they get killed often, or not often, but they do get killed, and they're usually either taken by their own kind, or they're hidden, you know, covered up. So if a person does find one, the last thing you want to do is offer anybody money for it. Get it to the open, get it out in the open, get it to a news station, get it into a situation where they can't cover it up. You know, and be real smart about it. You know, that, you know, unless you have a plan like a lot of us do, and that's about the only thing that'll work. You know, so I've followed some very interesting leads, including one where one fed off of a wolf poison here in Alberta. That was interesting. There was big time government intervention on that story, on that one. And it's not something I heard, it was something I was involved in. So I'm quite well aware that there's knowledge of the creature and that they really want to keep it quiet. Why? I would like to know why, but we discussed that a little bit.
You think it's a bad idea for someone like me to go out by myself into these places where they're known to exist?
You know what? I would be careful. I would definitely get yourself one of those trackers, satellite trackers. You know, you can pull it in an emergency. I think that I think it's something that you should have. I think it's something you should have on you at all times. And you know, if there's more than one of you, you're in good shape. You shouldn't do it alone. At least in my opinion, at least from, You know, because the thing is, if you get disorientated because you're close to them or you get scared, I mean, it's... I know guys that have had bad experiences and they don't go out to the woods for a long time because of it. There are certain things that, like, if you get a really good recording of a baby crying and turn that thing on in the nighttime, try that one. I've talked to one guy who said he'll never do that again. And it makes sense, you know. There was an article in the newspaper in Alberta here some years back that it was in the newspaper that a bear had shook a guy's trailer in Banff. And I found it odd that that made the news, you know, a bear leaning up and shaking the guy's trailer. Until I talked to the BFRO, and the BFRO told me the real story. Is they had a baby crying in there that wouldn't stop crying, and all of a sudden something shook the trailer so violently that they were actually all off their feet. The guy went outside madder than a snake and confronted what he called a 10-foot tall man in a gorilla suit. And he reported it, and he argued with the people. So they did a press release before he had a chance to go to the media with the story. But the BFRO guys told me that they talked to him, and that's consistent with things that happen. Like, they shake trailers all the time. So I found that to be quite interesting, that they would actually make a press release out of that incident before the guy had a chance to tell anybody, right? Because obviously everybody said, it was a bear, it was in the news, you're crazy. There's a lot of thought goes into that. I really hope that, you know, upon discovery that people are smart and not stupid, you don't shut down industries, things like that, you know. You don't get confrontational about every aspect of your agenda, you know. I just, you know, because any fighting between us over this creature is going to be to the detriment of the creature and not us, really, you know. So I just hope that however discovery happens, that common sense prevails. But, you know, maybe it won't get solved for a long time. But I think sooner or later it will. I knew a fellow who worked for the government. Unfortunately, he's deceased now. But if you gave him a few drinks, he would tell you that they know about them. And that he's not allowed to talk about them whatsoever. And just investigating that person's background, I found a number of very, very good people that will corroborate what I just told you. So, if they're involved in any way, whether it's quietly removing them from the forest, or quietly watching them, or, you know, I'm not aware of it. And I don't really, unless they approach me and tell me, I kind of want to stay off their radar. I've always been that way. But I do have contingencies in place, and which I share with a number of other people, on how to bring the information forward if we get conclusive proof in such a way that it can't be covered up. And I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I never have been. Like, you know, there's usually reasonable explanations for everything, but this one, you know, if you look through the history, everybody says, yeah, well, nobody knew what a Sasquatch was till those guys made those fake tracks. Other than the fact that Daniel Boone killed one in the 1700s, it's well documented. And I remember a historian, it was a woman, they were asking her if it was true that Daniel Boone killed a wild man of the forest. And she said, if they exist, he killed one. It's documented well enough. There's a bunch of people there. Daniel Boone killed a Sasquatch. That's a kind of a cool account, you know. The history is, you know, look at in the 1930s or late 20s with Albert Ostman. His account, I have no doubt in my mind, no doubt that it's true. Now, the reason that I believe the Albert Ostman account is because, mostly because he was a Swede. Now, that's going to sound funny, but I lived in Norway for 5 years, and I've been dealing with Scandinavians through my outfitting business for like 15, 20 years. I speak Norwegian. You know, you get an old guard Scandinavian person, and they're not going to lie to you. They're the most honest people you'll ever meet. You know, and they asked him on his deathbed, did that really happen? You know, make your peace with God, etc., etc. And he said, yeah, it happened. You know, I mean, a guy like that wouldn't lie to you in the first place, let alone on his deathbed. Now, you've probably heard about the deathbed confession of the Bigfoot tape being a hoax. No, it's the Loch Ness Monster photo. You know, the one where it's, I knew that was a fake the first time I saw it, because if you look in the artworks of a Charles Knight, was one of the first paleontologist artists. It's directly traced from his Brontosaurus in the swamp. It's the same thing. It's made from that picture. I recognized the picture right away. You know, the whole idea of a lake monster I thought was cool, but that picture was Charles Knight's Brontosaurus. You know, obviously hoaxes nowadays would be a little bit more complex, but he did on his deathbed admit to faking it. Somehow or another, that story got turned around as to be the Patterson footage, which was not true. Roger Patterson on his deathbed said it was real. And because I'm trained to see live animals in photographic reference, the first time I saw the Patterson footage stabilized and slowed down, I knew within about 3 seconds it was real. You know, it would take modern day special effects, the technology to make something look like that with those dimensions in 1967 didn't exist. You know, if you look at a Star Trek episode from 1967, you know, with like the most worst special effects you could ever see, well, if it was a hoax, that's what it would look like. You know, because they had money for that stuff. And no,